Everyone, Maurice, and welcome to Tanks Invest, where we talk about investing, finance, and professional development. For today's video, it is terms only. The investment we'll talk about today will be Ethereum, ticker ETH. First, I just want to say happy Friday, everybody. Hope everyone had a great week so far. We are looking forward to the weekend coming. I know Father's Day is coming up, so I do have some plan for my dad coming up. So a pretty exciting weekend ahead. And with respect to this Friday morning, Ethereum is currently down about 2.86%, which as expected is a Friday affectations that we're currently experiencing right now. Also with respect to the weekend affectation that I've mentioned to you guys previously. Relatively speaking, on the equity portions of the market, with respect to today is the quadruple witching day. And with respect to what that means on a conceptual level, is referring to a date on which four things will expire. So the stock index futures, stock index options, stock options, and single stock futures all expire simultaneously today, right? And this occurs every 4 times per year. It occurs on the third Friday of March, June, which is the month we're at right now, September, and December, okay? And typically on the quadruple witching day, we typically experience a relatively higher in market volume and also arbitrage opportunities at the same time. However, with respect to higher volume, it doesn't necessarily translate into increase in volatility or either going up or going down in the market perspective. With respect to the timing of the quadruple witching occurrence, it typically occurs in the later half of the day ahead of the market close, around like the 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Then I believe the more precise time, based on my historical experience, is starting about like the 3:30 p.m. on the Eastern time. It gets more higher volume around like the 3:50 p.m. on the equity side across multiple stocks, and especially on the index, which you will see if you look at the volume and you observe the levels of the volume at that specific time. So this will subsequently have some direct correlation or anti-correlation to obviously the crypto market, knowing the fact that they anti-correlates, right? When the stock goes up on the equity side, crypto tends to go down because of that reverse affectation. So I'm going to go through a technical analysis to see where do we see Ethereum going forward from here, right? On top of the fact that we do have the weekend affectation that we need to encounter, also adjust into our assumptions going forward. So I'm going to give you guys my level of resistance to look out for and my price target for you in 2021 as well. So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. So moving on to the technical analysis for Ethereum ticker ETH, let's just take a look at the equity side real quick so we could like have a more of a comparison snapshot on just the index side of the world. You can see that for the SPY, we're currently down about 1%. And with respect to the Nasdaq, we're currently down about 0.61% right now. We're down because of, we're not really down, I would say. It's just more like a sideways consolidation, right? Despite the positive couple of days that we've had on the equity side already, because of the positive FOMC meeting that we had, right, with Jerome's depictions around, the inflations that we should be foreshadowing going forward, but more in the near term with respect to the quantitative tightening plan that he was proposing, that the tapering is not going to be occurring anytime soon. The prioritization that they have at the Feds right now is to sustain the job market, also sustain our growth on the corporate side as well. So which will subsequently means that they're going to continue to keep the machine, keep the printer on to print more money for us to further circulate the monetary exchange in our commerce side of the world in the US, right? So which subsequently will drive some positive affectation to the equity side, which subsequently explains why it has been a green couple of days if you look at the index, right? And also, if you look at that more specifically in the stock, you could see that with respect to the green candle that we've had, mainly driven by the FOMC report that we got, but also with respect to some positive affectation coming from the management team. And also on top of Tesla, we will see more prominently. You could see the reversal was coming from there. Obviously not as prominent as NEO because the NEO is a little bit more of a growth stock and the market cap is a little bit smaller, so that's why it has more volatility. So going back to the Ethereum, you could see that right now, because of the fact that we have positive couple of green days in the equity side, which subsequently anti-correlates to drive some drag effects onto the crypto side, right? You could see that we're down ever since that $2,600 on June 15th, which was basically on a Tuesday, basically before the FOMC meeting that we had. And subsequent to that, because of the positive affectation on the media front and also positive on the equity side of the pressure, subsequently drove it down all the way to the $2,268 level at one point, basically heading towards the $2,250 level, which is something that was expected. I've mentioned this to you guys before. This is a very strong psychological resistance level that we've been testing a bunch of times, which is the reason why I drew the yellow line here. If you look back all the way to the past, right? I see going forward from here, knowing the fact today is a Friday, and we do have to expect that weekend affectation. So we will see some selling pressure across the board for the crypto side, which explains why Bitcoin is also down about 2% so far. And with respect to knowing the fact that the index right now is relatively more on the bearish side, I do foresee some sort of a rebound coming, knowing the fact that if you look at the SPY right now, you could see that we have recently crossed down. So I do see some selling pressure down, despite like we are kind of leaning towards that way, but we should see some rebound in the later half of the day. So I think the today will be relatively more of a sideways fashion ahead of the closing. And I think the closing will have a higher volume. We'll see a bigger candlestick. Probably a really green candle or the red candle, depending on the options market, on how people making a lot of money or losing a lot of money, which is something we don't really have any clarity or visibility into, right? On the Nasdaq side, you could see that we are leaning more towards the overbought zone. You could see that the MACD is still fusing up, right? You still have some separations, but you see that RSI is highly overbought right now, so we should see some reversal coming. And with respect to the reversal coming, we'll subsequently drive up the price for the crypto side, right? They have the anti-correlation effects, right? So I'll say SPY and NASDAQ kind of net cancels each other out, but with more propensity towards the the selling side, because of the fact the chart is set up right now. Also on top of the fact that FOMC meeting that we had 2 days ago was positive 2 green days. So for some people to take some profit on like a Friday today ahead of the weekend, it sounds logical. And also on top of the fact that today is a quad witching day, and most quad witching day has been a negative day based on my experience so far. It just happens that way. People most of the time are more optimistic on buying call options instead of buying put options. In just like a relatively perspective, like just think about that psychologically, right? Which subsequently drives that coincidence that typically quad witching days are more of a red days on the equity side, which subsequently is good for us on the crypto side, right? So I foresee us to be rebounding relatively shortly for Ethereum going forward. We should be testing somewhere around the $2,250, possibly even going down to the $2,150. But I don't see that happening. I think we're going to be rebounding relatively shortly around like the $2,200 level. We should be rebounding, knowing the fact that we are crossed right now. But we should be going down a little bit more, like maybe just $100 or $50 more, and then we should be rebounding based on just how the MACD set up right now. Also on the RSI, we are submerged right now that we are bound for a reversal. And something interesting is that with respect to the wedge that I've been telling you guys about, like the upward wedge formation, which would subsequently drive a bearish downside in the foreshadowing perspective, that it seems like as of today, we are breaking the wedge a little bit. We're forming an outlier. So that's something that we can further verify, right? Because this is a good sign for us, because like that means that we're not really forming an upward wedge anymore. This was just a mirage, if you may. It wasn't really something that was real. It was just a form of consolidation that looked something similar to an upward wedge, right? But that's something we need to verify, something we need to confirm. It seems like this is breaking it right now, but we need to like further observe, because if we are still going to be trending going forward, the time for the wedge to be formed to hit the apex is going to be early in July, right? Basically before July 4th. Which can make sense if you think about it in a larger perspective, right? July 4th is like a holiday. People want to like relax, and also on top of the whole holiday and weekend effects at the same time, that could drive some selling pressure across the crypto board, right? So that's something we to look out for. So in terms of like swing trading, I think like waiting until like the $2,250, or if you're even more risk averse, like waiting until like the 2,200 or even 2,150 and then swing back up. That should be very logical, knowing the fact that we are up for a rebound very, very soon, knowing the fact that we are submerged in the water and MACD is already bound to cross up very momentarily. On top of the fact that on the equity side, anti-correlates, it further confirms the thesis of the bullishness coming up. But we have to understand that the weekend effects is also in the adjustments. So they might just like ultimately net cancels each other out. Something to be aware of. So today's a relatively interesting day. Multiple factors we need to put in play. But hopefully, by me breaking it down for you, gives you more clarity into your executions going forward. Just to recap on the numbers real quick, I think the current level at the $2,250, that's a level of very strong consolidation that we've been forming substantively historically. So that's a good level for you to buy in, just to incur some risk, just a little bit, right? And I think the likelihood of like rebounding from that level will be very, very high, knowing the fact that how it anti-correlates with the equity market, and also on top of the fact on the crypto side, how Ethereum, the chart on both the MACD and the RSI perspective are set up right now. It just makes sense for the rebound to be happening relatively soon. And then also with respect that we're going to go down to the $2,100, that's an even stronger resistance level before the $2,000 level, that psychological resistance level, that mental level that we always have sustained, right? That could be possible, but I think the likelihood of us to do that would not be that likely, because like that will create some sort of like a mini outlier into the chart, right? So I don't foresee us to be going there. With respect to like 1750, seems like we are breaking the wedge right now. The outlier is starting to form, but we have to understand the weekend affectation as an adjustment, right? Because like there are some things in our assumptions that we need to discount. There are some adjustments that we need to make adjustments for, right, or revise for. So I think we still need to further verify to look at the trends in more of a macro perspective. But based on the facts, it seems like we are forming an upward wedge, right? And upward wedge are always negative, based on my explanations that I've given to you guys in previous videos. That breaking that would be possible, and is coming soon. However, because of the breaking of today, forming an outlier, we need to maybe look out this a little bit more and observe this a little bit more to see if we need to make any revisions to the chart of the outlook of the breaking of the apex going forward. Because like by having these outliers, we need to make the adjustments to recalculate, go back to the drawing board to understand all the other supply and demand dynamics again. Then we could capsulate that into a new form of calculations to understand the newly revised model in the calculations, right? So something to look out for. With respect to my price target, 12 months out, 20%, close to about 10K from here of 12 months price target for extra money from here. For there with respect to my technical analysis on Ethereum, I will definitely keep you guys up to date with respect to how we're going to be progressing going forward during this weekend, knowing the fact the weekend affectation on top of the quad reaching, and also on top of the Father's Day affectation that we might even occur. Those are the things that we need to kind of encapsulate and adjust for. So I'll keep you guys up to date, so don't worry. And in terms of the wedge, we definitely need to look out for it to see if this is truly an outlier to the wedge that we're breaking right now, and how is that going to formulate our executions of the trades going forward. So hopefully you guys find this helpful into giving you guys more clarity and transparencies going forward. And please kind of hit the like button, subscribe button, so the bell notification, and watch everything's coming up.